So yesterday there was a trade in the NFL that we're going to talk about, and you can tell by that title. We get into the big boys in the camp battles. What is up, Finn fans? Yes, like I said, if you could tell by the title, we are going to be talking about the big boys, the up fronts. Get the O-line. Next video is going to be the D-line. Talking about those big boys. Very, very important. Before we jump into that, yesterday, because I'm recording this Sunday night, I'm recording this after watching the Floyd Mayweather Logan Paul fight, which Mayweather won. Plain and simple. If there was score keeping, Mayweather won. Logan Paul was gassed by the fourth round. Mayweather won. But that's here nor there. So I'm recording this Sunday night. You guys are seeing this Monday, unless you are a Patreon or a member. You are seeing this as soon as I'm done. So all you late night guys get a video. But yesterday, Julio Jones was traded. He was traded to the Tennessee Titans. I'm actually happy for the Titans. I'm happy for Ryan Tannehill. We got to face them week 17. Weird to say. We got to face him. Week 17. But this is what they got. So the Atlanta Falcons got the Titans 2022 next year, second, and 2023's fourth. And the Tennessee Titans got Julio Jones and the Atlanta Falcons 2023 sixth. And also Julio Jones' contract. And I read a few comments on Twitter, and I read a few comments in the comment section from certain Dolphin fans that were upset that why didn't the Dolphins do this, right? Because the second and a fourth isn't bad for Julio Jones. That's what I was thinking. If you guys remember when I made my video, you can go back and watch, should the Dolphins trade for Julio Jones, and will the Dolphins trade for Julio Jones? I kind of said that that's probably what they're going to get for him. I said, you could throw a player in there, it'll compensate for some other picks. But I said about a second and a fourth, or I think I said a second and a fifth. So it does make sense because, you do give the sixth back to them. So I'm happy for Tennessee. But Tennessee, and the reason the Dolphins didn't do this, for one, they're fine. I think the wide receiver core is probably one of the deepest and one of the best besides corners and secondaries, which we will get to on our team. So we didn't need Julio, but Julio's Julio. I would have taken Julio. But not only is the Tennessee Titans getting Julio Jones and a sixth-round pick in 2023, they're getting his contract, which this year is a cap hit of $15.3 million. And then after this year, they can cut him, and it's only a $2 million dead cap hit, whereas this year it's a $17.3 million dead cap hit. So essentially, in a nutshell, they're getting Julio for 1 year, $15.3 million, or 1 year, $17.3 million, because regardless, they have they have the dead cap of $2 million, and I think the Falcons have a dead cap of $7.5 million, if my memory is serving me correctly. That is why the Dolphins didn't do it. Because you have the money that you're giving to Will Fuller, $10 million. You have the money that Devontae Parker is getting, which I think is around $12 million, give or take. And then you would add on Julio. And then I've heard people say, well, why don't we send them Devontae Parker in that trade situation? And I did it. So go back and watch that video. We'll still be in the negative with the cap space. We still haven't signed 4 of our draft picks. So no, it didn't work out, but good for you, Tennessee Titans. Some people ask me, well, you worried that the Dolphins have to face them? Not really. I'm happy he's not on Atlanta, and I'm not really caring about him being on Tennessee. No, not a knock on Julio, but will he be healthy come week 17? Will he be available come week 17? A lot of things can change, but the Tennessee Titans did trade for Julio Jones. So now let's jump into the title of the video, and then we'll get to comment of the day, which is a very good comment, and I want to talk about it. So I'm going to run down the offensive lineman players. I have some notes with each of these guys that we have. So let's jump into it because we got a good amount. We're going to start at center, go to guard, and go to tackle, and I'll tell you where they're listed on the Miami Dolphins website. If you go to MiamiDolphins.com, you go to roster, it'll tell you where they are listed. So we'll start with center. We have Tyler Gauther, we have Matt Skur, we have Cameron Tom, and we have Michael Dieter, who is listed as guard/center, but from everything we're hearing, he's training as a center, and he'll probably really compete as a center because when I talk about guards, you'll see he's probably not going to beat any of these guards. So you look at the centers, right? You're like Tyler Gauthier? I think it's Gauthier. And Cameron Tom? Who the heck is that, Doug? Well, Tyler is an undrafted free agent last year, and Cameron Tom was a free agent signing from the Saints. Then you have Matt Skura, who, he was all right. He had a big injury in 2019 that knocked him out. Coming back to it last year, he didn't do great, but before he got injured in 2019, he was the fourth best in pass block win rate, and I think he was top 10 in run block win rate, so he's pretty good there. And then Michael Dieter, fifth-round pick in 2019. Most of his snaps when he did play were at left guard, and he took about 50 snaps at left tackle. I think that was in 2019. So that's the center position. Skura seems like he's coming in to be the starter, but I'll run down all the players and then I'll tell you who I think the starting five is going to be, and some of the guys that are probably on the on man now. Then we're going to go to the guard position. We have Robert Jones, who's an undrafted free agent this year. Solomon Kinley, you all know about Solomon Kinley. Last year, he gave up 4 sacks, 2 hits, 11 hurries, 17 pressures, and 5 penalties. Most of his snaps came at right guard with 556, and 189 of his snaps came at left guard. You have Dorval Neto, who is defensive tackle converted to guard, Brazilian, that we picked up, I think it was in 2019, undrafted free agent. He's still on the team. He has my brain is shutting off, practice squad, thank you, Doug, of my brain, exemption because he is an international player. Then we have Jesse Davis, who has been with us forever. He gave up 1 sack, 10 hits, 25 hurries, 34 pressures, and 2 penalties last year. He took 186 snaps at left tackle, 509 snaps at right guard, and 354 snaps at right tackle last year. His best games, which were at right guard and right tackle, well, his most snaps were at right guard, right tackle. His best games, one of his best game was at left tackle against the Rams, and then his other 2 best games were against Cincinnati and New England at right guard. So he had 3 really good games last year against the Rams, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the New England Patriots, left tackle, guard, and guard. Then we have Robert Hunt, and yes, both Jesse Davis and Robert Hunt on their website is listed as right tackle, guard/tackle, but I think they're going to be playing guard for us. He had 3 sacks, 5 hits, 15 hurries, 23 pressures, and 8 penalties last year. All of his snaps were at right tackle with 709, and his best games were against Arizona, Cincinnati, and New England. You're picking up on something, and I'll get to that in a second because now we're talking the tackles. We have Larnell Coleman, undrafted free agent this year. You have Jonathan Hubbard, undrafted free agent last year. Austin Jackson, one of our first-round picks last year, with 4 sacks, 5 hits, 29 hurries, 38 pressures, and 5 penalties. All of his snaps were at left tackle, and his best game last year was against the Arizona Cardinals. You had Adam Pankey. He was a pickup late in 2019 off of waivers. You have Timon Paris, who is an undrafted free agent in 2018 from the Washington football team. We just signed him this offseason, so I feel like, who the heck is Timon Paris? That is who he is. You have Liam Eckenberg, the second-round pick, and a guy I'm very, very excited to see this year. You have DJ Fluker, a guy we signed a couple months ago. He's listed as an offensive lineman on their site. So he's not listed as a tackle. He's not listed as a guard. He's not listed as a center. He is listed as an OL. So with that being said, I was like, all right, well, let's look at where he's taken the most snaps to kind of get an idea of where he will be lining up. He's an 8-year vet. In 2020, last year, he had 24 snaps at left tackle, 568 snaps at right tackle with the Ravens. His career snap count at which position? He has 3,900 snaps at right guard and 2,526 snaps at right tackle. So it seems like the right side tackle guard situation is where he will either be competing to start or be a backup for us. Last year with the Baltimore Ravens, he had 2 sacks, 3 hits, 25 hurries, 30 pressures, and 9 penalties. So that is our offensive linemen going into camp. We have a good amount. I didn't number them, but it's a lot. You want to have a lot. You want to have a lot going into the season, because with the trench guys, that's where a good amount of your injuries happen, especially the offensive linemen. I've seen it time and time again, and it just hurts to see where you have one guy blocking a defensive lineman, and then your guy next to you throws a defensive lineman down to the ground. It catches the back of the offensive lineman's leg and just ruins their day. So you want to, I think, you have 5 starters. You probably want to run with about 8 offensive linemen in the season, maybe even 9, depending on your comfortability with your starters. But looking at our offensive linemen when it comes to centers, guards, and tackles, which again, we have a bunch that can play very versatile positions. And I've said this, my starting 5 is going to be at left tackle, Austin Jackson at left guard, Solomon Kinley at center, Matt Skura at right guard. I think it'll be Robert Hunt, but don't be surprised if it is Jesse Davis. I think the starter at right tackle is Liam Eichenberg. So who's the odd man out? I think Jesse Davis still makes the team. I think Dieter still makes the team. I think Dieter is going to be the backup center, and I think he will have a very good competition for that center position. You look at Tyler Gauther and Cameron Tom, probably not going to make the team. When it comes to the guards, I don't see Robert Jones making the team. Solomon Kinley, Jesse Davis, and Robert Hunt will be your guards, and I think Jesse Davis, if he doesn't start, will be a very, very good, reliable backup for the 2 second-year guards. I think Robert Jones probably will go to the practice squad. Same thing with Deval Neto, unless he can come out and surprise. But it seems like he does struggle a little bit when it comes to playing. And then when it comes to tackles, Austin Jackson and, like I said, Liam Eichenberg, DJ Fluker will make the team, and I think he'll be another guy. Like I said, you're only running with 3 guards, Doug. Well, DJ Fluker can play that guard position, so Jesse Davis at some point could be the backup to Solomon Kinley, and DJ Fluker could be the backup to Robert Hunt, if not beat him for the job. Again, everyone's in a competition, so DJ Fluker, Liam Eichenberg, Austin Jackson, and I'm thinking Adam Pankey or Jonathan Hubbard. So like I said, you got about 4 tight ends / guards. You got about 3 guards, and you got 2 centers. So like I said, about 8, 9 offensive linemen. That's what I'm thinking. But if you notice, when it came to Jesse Davis, when it came to Robert Hunt, when it came to Austin Jackson, their best games were Cincinnati, New England, Arizona. And what were Tua's best games? Cincinnati, New England, Arizona. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. You tell me. Also, be sure to comment below. Who do you think your starting 5 is? And who do you think, out of all of the offensive linemen we have, how many do you think we're going to keep? And who do you think they are? If you can think of all the names. Mostly, who do you think your top 5 are? Be sure to comment below. And I'm going to get to comment of the day. Now, comment of the day comes from Sunday's video, yesterday's video, where I talk about the Mythbuster with check down Tua, right? And a lot of you guys, first and foremost, I want to say super respectful. If you disagreed with me, or if you're like, hey, Doug, I don't necessarily think those are check downs behind the line of scrimmage, you guys came up with some very good, respectful conversations. I want to thank you for that. 2, a lot of you guys were asking me, well, Doug, if it's behind the line of scrimmage, how can you tell if it is a designated screenplay or a check down? And also, check downs could also be from 0 to 5 yards, which I did mention in the video. And for me, it is hard to decipher what of his 11% were screens versus check downs, and what are his, what is it? I have it right here, Doug. 54% were check downs from 5 below, or actual passes from 5 yards and above to 10. It was very hard to decipher, but the whole point of the stats and everything was to show that his numbers were kind of equal, if not a little more or a little less in certain areas, like I talked about, than his competitors and his draft and the top echelon quarterbacks. So the whole point, and me saying that it's busted, was because a lot of people like to say that he throws more checkdowns than anyone else. He is checked down Tua, which necessarily isn't true. because, like I said, if you look at Justin Herbert, a good chunk of his passes were behind the line of scrimmage in 0 to 10 yards with 63.5%. Whereas Tua's, it was 65.1% when you look at 10 yards behind. So again, it's not that far off to consider him only throwing checkdowns. Why does he do it where everyone else throws bigger chunk yardage plays? Not necessarily. And if I went through all of these and did the math of putting their percentages together, it'd be around roughly the same. Over 50% of their passes are from 9 yards and behind the line of scrimmage. So to say, oh, he only throws checkdowns, he's only a checkdown guy, most of the quarterbacks in the NFL are. That was my point, and that's why I said it was busted. But to the comment of the day from Theodore Smith, he came out and he said a very good comment. Now, it's funny because he doesn't think that Tua has it, which if you don't, I respect it, because he came and he gave me opinion. He gave me his facts. He gave me his feelings on this situation. Instead of just saying he sucks, he blows, he's this or that, we had a conversation. And that's what I respect and that's what I like. So he said, oh, and if you look at the media of the Bengals and Chargers, you don't see them with articles or videos like this defending past year's quarterback play. I would say most feel very optimistic about the quarterback they drafted. Dolphins seem to be doing a lot of defending his average play. And that's true. Now, we don't know single-handedly. Like, I don't know much Bengals or Chargers YouTubers. So, well, there's not much you could defend from Justin Herbert. He was the offensive rookie of the year. So if you're a Charger fan, you're like, our quarterback won offensive rookie of the year. But you can also look at the Dolphins game, the Bills game, and the Patriots game and be like, he played like garbage. He didn't play week 1. So what, the other 14 games or the other 13 games, 12 games, Doug, use your brain, use the math, were really good. If not, decent to really good, they weren't bad. So they don't. But with Joe Burrow, we don't know. Now, if I went full detail with Joe Burrow, his passes over 20 yards, he threw 11.9% of them, but he completed 9 of 48 of them for 293 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception with a PFF grade of 61.5. So yeah, he threw 11% of the passes 20 plus yards, but only completed on 9 of them and got a PFF grade of 61.5, which is real bad. So he asked, why aren't these other teams doing it? Why aren't these other teams defending their quarterbacks? For one, I don't know. I don't watch it, but I'm going to take his word for it. But his other teams, the other, Herbert, I'm going to talk about Burrow because Herbert, you don't need to defend like anyone offensive rookie of the year. Burrow, he doesn't have a section of his fan base that are saying, well, look, he's injury prone. He tore his ACL. Look, he can't throw the deep ball. He only converted 9 of 48, 293 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, PFF grade of 61.5. He this or that. There's not a section of his fan base that looks at his game and says, well, this or that or this or that. Yeah, some of his games weren't his fault that he lost. It was his defense's fault because he was moving the ball, but there were other games where he kind of struggled. There aren't a section of the fan base for the Bengals who do that. There is for the Dolphins. Now, am I saying they're wrong to feel that way? No, because there were certain games where Tua struggled. But there were certain games where Tua kind of won the Dolphins the game. Cardinals, New England game. He kind of won them those 2 games. So that is why the national media and all that stuff. Well, it's not even the national media because there's I could pull up a ton of videos and articles of national media saying Tua is showing he can do this and that. And Tua is showing things. Heck, Kurt Warner, Hall of Fame quarterback, came out, did a 3-part series breaking down where Tua had a little bit of struggles and where Tua did really well. And even came out and said, once he fixes these little hiccups, which I'm even agreeing, and I talked about in my film breakdown, he's going to be real good. He has it. He has it here and here. He even in his video said, people call him check down to it. That isn't true. Kurt Warner said it. So it's not even like Schmo in his office, in his house, who does Dolphin YouTube videos, is saying it. A Hall of Fame quarterback, Super Bowl MVP, greatest show on turf quarterback, said it. So back to what Theodore says, the reason why YouTubers for the Bengals or whatever aren't coming out and defending it is because they don't have a section of the fan base who, you know, aren't going to give Joe Burrow more time after 9 games. They don't like what they've seen so far, and they haven't had a quarterback like Dan Marino, and they haven't been searching for a quarterback for the past 20 years. So their impatience isn't as short as the Dolphins. Certain fan base. I'm not saying all of us, but there's a certain section, and it's not big, it's kind of small, that is just like, Tua sucks, I'm done. I don't care about the 9 games. I don't care how he did play well in certain games. I see the hiccups and I see what I don't like, and that's all I care about, so I'm done. And hey, man, if you are, you are, but give the kid a chance. And that's the last thing I'm going to talk about, because a lot of people like to lump me in with, and I've said this time and time again, and I'm not saying it anymore. And like I said, I'm not talking about Tua last year anymore. One, I've always said it, and I will always say, my assessment and my definitive decision and thoughts on Tua aren't going to be until after this year, giving him an actual offseason and everything. And 2, I said that the reason the Dolphins kept 2 2023 first-round picks is because if Tua doesn't pan out for the next 2 years, they're going to get their quarterback. So I like to think that I'm a very unbiased and not on one or end of the spectrum. I'm dead in the middle, and you have to be, especially when you're breaking down this stuff, and I try to give you guys my opinions. But Theodore, I hope I answered your question. We did have a full-blown conversation, and I hope I answered it there, and I hope you listening to me talk about it gave you a little bit more perspective on it. But be sure to comment below. What do you guys think? There are people who don't like, it's not that they don't like Tua, they just see his flaws and don't think he can get better, that are very articulate and very good at having conversations. And then there's some that just, it's funny. It's just funny. But be sure to comment below. What do you guys think about what I had to say? What do you guys think about what Theodore had to say? Be respectful below. That's why I always say stay classy. Be respectful. The next video is coming out Wednesday. I haven't decided what it's going to be yet, so it's going to be a shocker for you. Might be another reaction video. You guys are giving me good reaction videos, but that will come out Wednesday. Be sure to check out patchvibes.com. Use the code DDW. Get yourself 20% off on some really good t-shirts, patches, all that good stuff. Also, check out Miami Sports Music. Fantastic website that has a ton of podcasts like me, TD, Wade, a bunch of other. So check it out. And other than that, I'll see you guys Wednesday. Unless the news breaks, if we sign somebody or something, you'll get it from me. But like usual, stay classy. Fins up.